Alright, greetings and salutations. My name is Comic Fire, and welcome back for more Soul Hackers 2. In the last episode, we made it into the Soul Matrix, and in this episode, it's going to be our first deep dive into it, starting with a good old recruitment of a Suji Gumo who wants some of our HP. Now, HP is a resource that is pretty easy to give up. It's MP that you really have to be careful with. But you know, early on when spells are so cheap, you can kind of go nuts with them, including with regards to healing. Once you start needing yen as much later on in the game, you can buy a lot of healing items as well. But generally, if a demon asks for MP for a recruitment, that's generally not worth it. If they ask for HP, go nuts. Sweet, first enemy ambush. Now let's get started. And now we can speed up our battles.
Shall we?
That was not in the game originally. The launch, I believe I've said this before, the launch version of the game, you could not speed up the battles, you could not run in dungeons without an upgrade for a character. Which is, you know, silly. But now you don't have to deal with that. Now you can speed up to your heart's content. Which really makes the battle, it makes the Soul Matrix a lot more tolerable. I imagine, I mean, I wouldn't know. I never played the initial patch, or the initial version of the game. I imagine the Soul Matrix would have been a real ball buster that early on. Anyway, here we have these Mystiques. I believe I've covered this before, but we got a nice force one for upgrading our demon all the way. Or rather, you know what I mean. Give it to Saizo, because Saizo tends to be the... I don't know. Every one of the characters has an element that they do really well with, I'd say. And tends to be their natural element, and Saizo's is force. So generally, I mean, you could reliably just hand it off to anyone you wanted and have it work just fine. But Saizo's going to get upgrades later on that makes it so when he uses force skills, you're going to get a lot more out of it than, say, like if Milady used force skills. So, make your life a little easier and just essentially, you know, lock certain skills to certain summoners. You know, adapt on the fly. If there's a boss that's weak to force, make everyone use force. But, as a whole, you're going to get a lot out of the game if you just have your summoners stick to what they know, you know? So, in regards to those elemental affinities, Ringo's is Zeo, you know, electricity. Arrow is ice, Milady is fire, and Saizo is force. They all have like sub-elements, I guess you could call it, but those are the main ones. Milady also gets some good use out of Almighty, but you know that's not going to be a factor until later on.
Careful.
I'd say the big complaint people have about the Soul Matrix is that it's very Babby's first RPG Maker map. I don't know, if you look at the, you know, after we get out of this battle, if you look at the mini-map later on, you'll see that it almost looks like a classic SMT dungeon. Like, if you were locked to 4 directions a la Soul Hackers 1 or, like, Strange Journey, or, you know, Mega 10 or SMT in general, it would work, but... Or it looks like it would fit more, but in 3D, it's very plain. That's the big complaint I think a lot of people have with this game. And later on, I think it gets really awkward. Or, like, really noticeable. I'll show you one particular dungeon later on where I'd say, like, it looks like it came straight out of Soul Hackers 1. So I'd say early on, get all of your, or fight everything that you see. You want to get nice and strong and nice and fast. I mean, it's kind of the thing with, like, most RPGs in general. If you fight every random encounter that you get into, you're going to be fine, level-wise. Though later on, you can, you know, feasibly skip some of these enemies. Like, when you're doing, like, real deep dives into the Soul Matrix later on, because the Soul Matrix is deep. It's like it's almost like a Mementos or I guess Mementos would really be the best comparison, in that you're going to be coming back here a lot. Anyway, here's the Ring of Cosmic Will. We're going to give this one to Arrow to help patch up his lower MP pool. Though a better option will appear soon, but, you know, we have it, we might as well use it. We're not going to get that new upgrade until after this, so why not use it?
Enemy.
I don't know if you'll super need it, but, you know, better safe than sorry. Especially if you end up fighting absolutely everything.
Enemy.
I'm not sure if this is a tactic that other people use in RPGs, but when you're rewarded for hitting weaknesses like this, I like to keep a lot of like weaker options around. Like, I'll keep Zio all game long because my main strategy is to proc Sabbaths. So, you know, if Sabbaths are my main source of damage, then why wouldn't I just use Zio instead of having to use like Ziodyne and I'm eating my MP pool? Yep, HP, not a problem. Yeah, if you give
Any medicine?
if you give up HP, you give up like half of it. I think it might be the same for MP, and that's a much harder bargain to drive. I don't think it's worth it. If a demon asks for MP, I'll go get that demon later. Screw it.
This might be as far as we go.
Hey Flamma, anything we can do here?
This
Nope,
rupture
you're
is
screwed.
caused by the disparity in thought and cognition between Ringo and the human connected by her soul hack.
So it's about the differences between me and Arrow.
Well, they're totally different people. There's gotta be a million unique things between them.
What I hack into your brain?
In the soul matrix, these myriad points of disparity take this form.
I am you at this point.
This is a mutual lack of understanding between Ringo and the summoner. With a more sympathetic connection, their soul level can be elevated.
Ah, that's what it was all along.
This will all fix itself if they make nice. Be friends?
Making nice is a more ambiguous term than I would use, but yes, that is essentially correct.
I love that smug smile of
So,
Melody's there. It's a
what
very
would happen
nice
if we tried to
face.
pass through this without boosting our soul level?
It is not recommended. Doing so would induce immense stress in the human psyche.
And you can't do it anyway, so don't even worry about it.
I don't know how it would affect you either. Better play it safe for now.
Yeah,
See?
I know. Just curious.
Currently, however, your understanding of one another may be enough to proceed. Try approaching the rupture.
Can do.
Got it.
Yeah, this is why I said that boosting soul levels equally is going to be a big thing. Because you can't get deeper into the soul matrix without it. Generally, you're pretty much always, like, as long as you're coming back here at, like, when the game more directs you to, like, during our big side quest hunts, you're generally going to be pretty good. It's only towards the late game that you're going to have to wait for the plot and your soul level to catch up. But not only do we get to go through, we get summoner skills for this, and this is nice. Now, choosing one doesn't mean that, like, you lose it forever. You can always come back and get it later, but you're going to want to get some much earlier than others. Like, Adept Healer is a much better thing to have earlier on than Intelligence Hack. But you get these, like, Tales of-esque skits every time, kind of based on the skill that you pick. I think it's really fun. But if you get Adept Healer, your heals go a lot further than... or at least Arrow's heals go a lot further than they would have usually, so it helps with your MP issues. Which is a lot better than just getting a small intelligence boost.
Be cautious.
These guys are scary. They're called risky enemies, and they're how you're going to get
Careful. Careful.
The big thing about them, we're going to dive right for this. You can't knock them over, so you can't really do a whole lot of, like, ambushes with them. And in addition, they're stronger, have different resistances. Usually that comes in a lot later, I'd say. Or not a lot later, but... they have different resistances, different drops, and much higher stats. And they generally swap, like, we're fighting 3 Tsuchigumos because that is what our level range will allow for. Once one of our characters exceeds level 10, the risky enemy will switch. I'm sorry, not level 10, level 11.
Some room to breathe.
Uh,
Got anything else?
Early on, we're not going to be able to handle these guys. They're simply too strong. We're going to end up wasting a lot of our HP, or a lot of our MP. And I mean, look, criticals that are just basically, yeah, I mean, Saizo's gone.
Let me see.
You got annihilated there. Let's just use a Trifuri Bomb and get out of here. Yeah, we're not going to be able to handle these guys. That stops being much of a concern. I'd say around level... I'd say like 30, your mid-30s. When you start getting a lot more options to handle these things. Early on, they're not worth it. I'd say avoid most risky enemies. I'm gonna say if you can, but like they're not difficult. And if they get close, you can always just push them back. So anyway, this first batch appears between levels 5 and 10.
I'm going to enjoy playing.
And the next batch is like 11 to 19, then 20 to 29, and they follow that pattern up until the final batch from level 90 to 99.
Still with me?
Wanna give it a
They're very nice for farming. When you beat a risky enemy, they give materials for the Yang Yang Palace that allow you to get stat boosting items. So in addition to getting this huge EXP boost from them, because they give out a ton of EXP, you're also getting materials to help you buff your stats, and that's very nice.
Don't
But
expect me to help
we're
out.
really not going to be able to handle that now.
time to kick it off.
I mean, I'm sure you could, but it's a lot of planning for, at this point, I'd say not a whole lot of reward. You're going to level up pretty quick just fine, and really you might level up too fast.
Still good?
And then where would the challenge go?
Help me. Lois,
The game isn't very challenging to begin with, so
How's this to go down?
Got it? Fine.
I don't know, I guess maybe you could make the case that if you're solely going for risky enemies, that's where the challenge is, but then you're fighting the same, like, 3 enemies over and over and over again, and I'd say that'd get pretty boring.
Better safe than sorry.
But again, this is just me talking from normal mode. Maybe it's all different on hard mode. I don't find Atlas difficulty modes very interesting or mentally stimulating, so
I'm going to enjoy playing with you.
I don't care.
There's no point. Try something else.
Now,
Sasha,
one of the bigger issues earlier on is just like when you don't have a whole lot of attack-based options. Like we don't have a good source of like curse damage. Though I think McCoy's might be, they're either weak or resistant to it. I mean, they feel like it would be like resistant or outright immune to it. They tend to be like darkness aligned demons, and like Raito Kuzunoha,
I'm
for
a real
example.
heartbreaker.
But if you like find a batch of enemies where like early on you can't hit weaknesses, those battles tend to drag early on. You'll be able to like just DPS your way through it, but like at this point, like Sabbaths are like so our only source of damage. That not being able to proc them sucks. Anyway, now that we're this far, I'm going to show you why I don't know, maybe you might not even have much of an issue with MP going through the game. There is nothing stopping you from just leaving the Soul Matrix. I mean, outside of like all these like menus and loading screens. But we're just gonna go right on back to the safe house, take us a quick nap, and with no downside to us besides, you know, having to go through loading screens and menus, we're fully healed and ready to go. We can warp right back to where we were. And, like, not too far from now, we're going to get, I believe it's Traesto is the skill, that just warps us, like, from the dungeon, we can just warp straight to, the world map, so to speak. World menu, I guess. And at that point, yeah, it's pretty free. So I know I mentioned that, like, MP is a precious resource. It's easy enough to get back. It's just, I don't know, what a first world problem, right? It's like, oh, I have to warp back and go through menus to get all of my MP back. Woe is me. Unlike Soul Hackers 1, where, you know, getting your MP back was really expensive, and here it's totally free. But I say save your items for, like, deeper dives or for bosses,
Oh, yeah.
because I mean, yeah, there's really no downside to it.
We can win this.
There's no downside to just warping out. Like, it's a little inconvenient maybe, but, you know, get over yourself. It's-
Here goes.
you can inconvenience yourself for a little bit of,
It's okay.
for how amazing that is, you can inconvenience yourself a little bit.
Easy win.
And during long bosses, you're going to want the MP more anyway. If you run out of MP during a boss, you're hosed. And if you like don't have any items to replenish it. Even really, with how fast battles can turn, I'd say even like having to restore your MP with an item mid-battle might be a problem. It's a very kill or be killed scenario. Now, I know I just said that MP is something you really don't want to give up, but, you know, we really can warp out, and we're not too far from the end here. Actually, I think we're about halfway, but it's okay. I want that McCoy, and I want it now. So I hadn't mentioned before, but the Risky Tsuchigumo is weak to Ice and Wind, neutral Fire and Ruin, resists Electric, and it's immune to Physical and Gun. So now that we have, I know I looked this up when I first recorded this, like almost 2 years ago now. Golly, it's been a long time. How to pronounce Cyranope? Might be Chiranope?
Medicine?
It's something, they said something like that in SMT4 Apocalypse, but I've forgotten at the moment, and I don't know, I could look that up right now. Except I'll put it in post, we'll say. But yeah, unless you're like screaming for a demon, don't give up. Especially like early into your run. Like, get in pretty deep. It might not be a super concern right now, just given that, you know, we're running through with no real issue besides just trying to get through to the end of the first floor. But in later floors, there are going to be things we can do on that floor, and constantly warping out, especially when the maps start getting really big, can be a little disorienting. We get Lourdes. I knew someone whose last name was Lourdes. What are they doing? It was many a year ago. 20 of them to be...
There's one.
24 of them to be precise.
Hey!
What kind of demon do we get? Hair of Inaba. Hey, free lifestone. I think that you can get like HP, MP, or both heals, and that's nice. And if you talk to a demon in general, if there's an enemy chasing you, you'll be safe. Hey, we just got one of those. Cool, we got us a gremlin.
That was close.
I like the gremlin.
Enemy!
What item do you have for me now, buddy? Get some money! I believe this one is... I don't... actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's percentage-based or if it's just, like, how deep into the game you are. Money is a... Hey, another McCoy. Money is a bit of a concern early on, and kind of, actually, you know, money's actually kind of a big concern. It stops being one towards endgame, but... I don't know, if you get unlucky with grinding for certain materials, you do end up with a lot of money. There's a Bicorn, which I believe is weak to curse skills, of which we have none. A curse is like generally like status ailment stuff. There's no light or dark element skills in this game, which is kind of weird for an SMT game. Or a Megaten game, rather. No light or dark, but there's the... It's not curse, I'm sorry. It's called ruin in this game. The curse is just, it sounds nice.
Don't expect me to help, Arrow.
We saw one earlier with McCoy. Actually, then we probably do have it, because McCoy is Poisma, which inflicts poison, but it's a source of curse damage. I know later on there's one boss that's sole weakness is curse. Like ruin-type skills. I want to keep saying curse and ruin interchangeably, I'm sorry. The main source of damage from it is going to be just proccing Sabbath with ruin skills, so... That one can be a bit annoying, but that's not till, like, end game. Though similar to, you know, a lot of RPGs, some like big bosses can be pretty resistant to ruin. Like it's not enough that like their statuses, like the statuses you can inflict don't tend to
Sounds good to
go
me.
through. But like just like straight up they don't even get hurt by like the damage, and that part blows.
It's
But you know, that's how it is with RPGs sometimes. It ain't fun, but it's the genre. Heal me up, girl. HP and MP restored, gosh. What could that strange figure in the distance be?
That was close.
Though, yeah, this is what a lot of the Soul Matrices tend to be, is these, like, sprawling, labyrinthine bits. And I gotta say, some of the later ones get a little too big. Like I said, it's like, it really is Babby's first RPG Maker dungeon. Though, fortunately, we don't have to worry about the worst of it for quite a while, actually. Well, not quite a while. It's not a very long game. Which, you know, does come with the downside of you get to the shittier parts faster, but at least they're over faster. And ultimately, they're totally optional. The later Soul Matrices, you do not have to beat the game. You want to, because they give really good things, but if you hate it enough, you can kind of just avoid it. Though really at that point, well, that's not a fair thing to say.
Hey.
You didn't kill anyone. Must have been a memory.
Enemy.
Anyway, that's how you know you're going the right way. Though, in the early Soul Matrices, getting lost isn't really an issue. Outside of, like, some small detours,
Careful.
this is a pretty, like, not Final Fantasy 13. Well, actually, it is kind of Final Fantasy 13. Well, no, not really. Because of that. You know, I've been replaying 13, and, you know, people sure talk about that one being linear and just, like, a couple offshoots, but, like, it is really silly, like, how small the offshoots are sometimes.
What's the plan here?
At least this one has a lot of offshoots for you to play with.
I'm not your babysitter.
Lowest
go
kill
with that.
streak buys drinks?
Enemy down.
One Bicorn gone. That's another thing as well. In an earlier fight, you might have saw me kill a weaker enemy. Or like an enemy that was like already just about dead right before the Sabbath went through, though the Sabbath would have done it just fine. Pretty sure I mentioned this in an earlier episode. It's, you know, it's the downside of taking so long in between recording them. The fewer enemies on screen at once, the more Sabbaths do to each one.
Relax.
So, that enemy was pretty healthy, and I wanted him dead. So, I took out the weaker one so the Sabbath would hurt it more.
That's unfortunate.
That's odd. Wait, maybe sure looks done, doesn't she? Alright, we'll worry about that one later, I guess.
Incoming.
Keep it in mind for later. It's, it'll pop up.
Now we can relax.
I love how the enemies like Naruto run. Really, so does Ringo, kind of. Anyway, behind this one is a boss. Yeah, real quick, I was just checking to see what it was weak to. I want to say, I pre-recorded all of this, so sometimes, I get stumped by what I was doing at the moment. Though I've been watching through all these episodes and writing my notes down, so... The boss coming up ahead is weak to Fire and Force and is immune to Elec and Ruin. So, I am setting up to take the most advantage of that as I can. You can go into these fights pretty blind. There's no real punishment for dying. I don't think I ever died the first time I played this game, and I think I only died once during this LP, trying a risky enemy too early. But yeah, I don't think you can get here without having Arrow at soul level 10 at the very least. So, don't worry about that. The game is not going to hard lock you because you made a couple wrong decisions. Though that would be pretty classic, Atlas, wouldn't it? But, game companies don't do that no more. Gone are the days where that one Atlas rep said we get off on your tears. Because it turns out alienating the people that spend $60 on your video games is not a good way to get people to continue spending $60 on video games. Hey, Takumi Nakata! How you doing, buddy?
That big league's demon. It's being drawn to Arrow's memory.
It wants my memory?
Yeah. I can just sense it after soul hacking you.
Then
Why do you
this
have a
guy
demon
might
in
be
your
the
head, Arrow?
source of Ringo's condition. Let's take it down.
Actually, a devil summoner having
You know
demons
what
in
to
their head
do. Yeah,
totally
that's
sounds
the
right.
plan.
We're lacking in.
So during bosses, I like to turn off the speed up, just solely to make it more dramatic.
I'll burn it all. Did that hurt?
This is a very Stardust Crusaders battle theme.
Aim for the weakness, Saizo.
Like, this basically sounds almost entirely like Jotaro's theme.
What's our opener? Here goes.
Your defense has been dropped.
Too late for regrets.
Now we're gonna rip through this thing real fast. Yeah, if you know the, I mean, silly thing to say, if you know the boss's weakness, they die easier. Looking things up ahead of time makes the game easier, doesn't it?
I'll show you.
Youch.
Vital can't die
Looks like
here.
it'll work.
Right there, Ringo.
You gonna try it out?
Might be a good idea to take out the ads solely so, like, well, you know, they're going to be healing the boss, they're going to be weakening your Sabbaths. I'd say get rid of them. The ads here are weak to fire and elect, they resist ice and null ruin. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think, though, that's a different set of resistances than standard Chironopes. The game does like to throw weird things like that at you.
That's a hit.
I know
Go,
it's
Step
this.
try.
Let's see some fireworks.
But yeah, pop the ads like zits. Or you could just like still totally focus on Takemi Nakata and just rely on the AoE damage from Sabbaths, getting them, and then just, you know, chipping at Takemi Nakata. But with how hard Takemi Nakata hits, that might be a little dangerous. So like if you if your loadout really more affected, you know, the Chironoops, I'm gonna pronounce it like 100 different ways before I get this right. You could focus on them to build up Sabbaths,
You like that?
which would be a smart idea.
All right.
Go you.
Like, look at that. They've given you a nice, fun thing to focus on when you don't have the,
Let's go.
you know, the juice to hit the boss proper.
Switching to backup.
Thanks. Out of my way.
Yeah, your healing options early on are... It's almost like Strange Journey, where, like, your healing options up until you get... Really, the full heals are pretty bad. The Medea Rama, like, the second level healing spells are pretty good. It's the first ones here and, like, in Strange Journey where, like, they just flat suck. Like, you don't have enough HP to make life stones really worth it.
Love to see it.
Ringo just ate shit from an ill-timed Mazio.
Got a hunch?
Eat this.
And at this point, like, I want to rush this. Just
Got it.
get Takemi Nakata out of here.
Out of my way.
There you go.
See you in hell, but I got places to be.
And even though Ringo died, she's still got all of her EXP. So that's very kind for Megaten. This ain't your daddy's Megaten. It's your grandson's. Oh, Arrow, it's like your shadow. Boy's been cubed. I wonder how much of this was stylistic choice and how much of it was like, look, untextured blocks, that's gotta be cheap to... I love this game, I swear. Almost looks like Arrow's got his arm around Ringo's shoulder there.
You lied to me?
Listen, we don't have to fight. Can't you see that the Phantom Society is wrong? Open your eyes!
Open my eyes? Don't give me that shit! Fight me, damn it!
I won't!
I said fight!
That's not how the opening portrayed this.
God damn it!
Ow.
It's all so clear now. I was the one who was wrong. I'm sorry.
And the further we get into the Soul Matrices, the more of these little flashbacks we get. So if you like the characters, it's this ain't your Soul Hackers 1 subvision quest. But yeah, this is generally why I like to keep the soul levels pretty equal, just so you can see all of your partner's vision quests.
You alright? Sort of just went quiet all of a sudden.
I guess those two didn't get to see it.
Yeah, we're fine.
What Ringo and Arrow just witnessed was a meaningful memory, or a fragment of one at least.
And thanks to that, I remembered something important. Well, more like I was reminded.
So, what we just saw was...
My memory of when I was killed. I'm sure of it. That guy you
How'd you
saw,
remember the part that you weren't
Paparazzi,
alive for?
he's still with Phantom. He's helping them track down the Covenants.
Then
I'm
he's
sure we
our
don't have to
enemy.
run into him.
He is. But he's also a good friend.
So was this friend of yours really that mad at you for betraying the Phantom Society?
No,
Mad enough to put a
Not
bullet through his
because of
gray
that.
matter?
I made an important promise to him. And in that moment, I nearly broke it. Really, I have to thank you. You've given me a chance to set things right.
What did you promise him?
Thank you, Summoners. The
Her tragic backstory will have to wait.
And thanks to your efforts, Ringo's condition is now stable.
Sorry that he had to relive the traumatic memory, but Ringo's happy now.
We beat it.
Actually, I discovered something rather unexpected, so I had to perform a cursory inspection.
It's another good face
By
from
eliminating
Arrow.
the foreign object from the Soul Matrix, Ringo and Arrow's psychological wavelengths are now much more in sync, thereby enhancing your abilities.
Ah.
In other words, there are substantial benefits to exploring the Soul Matrix and clearing gates.
Tutorial shit.
Your powerful abilities does sound tempting.
Back it up a minute. When you say her condition's stable, are you implying we haven't really addressed the root of the problem?
Correct.
This is why therapy is helpful,
However,
viewers.
the
It gives you,
removal
it
of
makes you,
inhibitors like
it
the
gives you
one
better
we just
skills.
took care of seems to have a certain impact. It's unlikely Ringo will collapse again.
Neat.
Still, I ask that you please refrain from the consistent soul hacks, Ringo.
It'll never happen
Saw
again.
that one coming.
There are still many unknown factors at play.
You got yelled at by
and
your
we
mom.
must not forget the associated risks. We should try to avoid any unpredictable scenarios.
What makes him unpredictable in it? We're going to give that to Arrow because he's the lowest.
Fair warning. That was the first time something like that's happened to me, so I was really kind of freaking out. I guess that's what you'd call being sick? What a drag.
Well, I know I'm only alive right now because of it. But if the side effects are that severe, then maybe you shouldn't do it anymore.
Yeah,
Just don't get shot
I'm
again.
seriously considering that now, especially seeing as this is all your fault. Mm-hmm.
She just came into this world sassy.
Come on, I'm only kidding.
She's fun.
Compared to Saizo or Milady, you're... what's the term? Straight-laced?
Really?
Boring? No.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Nah, who are you kidding? You're as square as they come.
Well, I don't think it's so bad that Arrow carries himself that way.
Hey, thanks, Fig.
Be a dick rider, Mimi.
Thank you, everyone. It looks like Ringo is doing a lot better now.
Hooray!
And I have good news from my end as well. I've discovered another lead on a Covenant holder.
Not bad.
Nice one, Fig.
I'm surprised you found another in such a short time.
Perfect. Now we can really focus on finding the Covenants.
Let's get a move on then. I'm eager to see what the rest of these Covenant holders are like.
everyone.
I was gonna say, that
Please
pretty
make
much
your
puts
way
us
back to the
in
Sweet
knowledge of
House when you
where
can.
almost all of them
I'll be
are.
waiting.
Sweet. Now we can pick up a new skill for Arrow. But I'm going to go for Vengeful Opportunist. It's not really super useful,
Shay.
but it's going to get me to the skills that I want more and
Yeah.
want them faster. So I'm going to go for that.
But
I don't really do much guarding. It's only during like a couple bosses that like clearly telegraph that they're about to
Well.
got it?
fire off a super powerful attack.
Are you hurt?
And for the most part, kind of just like going in guns blazing tends to be the move outside of that. And really, if you play your cards right with certain upgrades you get later on, you might even just be able to like power through that in general. So yeah, not a great skill, but it gets me to the ones that I want to faster.
Now we can relax.
So plan your route out accordingly. Oh? Where's your soul matrix, Ringo? I mean, fortunately, she doesn't get one. Going through 4 different soul matrices would be a lot. But yeah, get further into the game with the soul matrices, and Ringo can get these cool skills as well, since she obviously doesn't have soul levels to increase.
Welcome. I am
Cool.
you. In addition,
Plus, this is where we get side quests for
in
the
the
soul
name of
matrices,
evolution,
of which there are
what
3
do you
varieties
desire
that I'll
in
explain in a little bit.
new function
But first,
unlocked.
let's get a skill. And the one we want immediately is Triesto, the ability to just warp right back to the city map. I explained this earlier,
Don't
but
forget.
it's almost pretty game-breaking, like how quickly you can
Huh?
just get out of a dangerous situation and totally fully heal up.
What do you desire, Ringo? New function.
So we can learn
unlocked.
more summoner skills now, so let's see what else we can grab. Optimize process? Yes, please. Save on MP. I think
Right.
that's just for Ringo. I don't remember off the top of my head. But even so, that's one character that you have to worry about the Rim people less, so can't beat that. If it procs enough, it's worth its weight in gold. And it's certainly better than just getting luck. I'm actually not sure what luck does in this game. That's always one you have to
What do
Google
you
whenever you
desire,
fire up like
Ringo?
any game, huh?
Further fraternization required. What do you
Yeah, so the
desire,
deeper we go into
Ringo?
those, the more we get for ourselves. Ringo's comes a lot slower. Anyway, so there are
Anomaly
3
detected.
types of these sub-quests that you can get as you progress further into the soul matrices. And they're always the same. Each floor always has one
Anomaly
where you
detected.
collect a bunch of items, and they're easy to find. It's just like basically treasure chests. Finding specific item
Anomaly
spawns,
detected.
which is, you know, another kind of similar thing. Though those ones are, I'm sorry, I was entirely wrong. One is finding, like, demons spawned out throughout the dungeon, one is collecting materials from a demon, and the other is beating mini-bosses. As you can see, you're not allowed to continue, and sometimes they have really nasty
Anomaly.
limitations. And in addition to those limitations,
Anomaly.
they don't tell you off the bat, there's a
Anomaly?
time limit. They just hit you with an immediate, like, what was it, like Armageddon from Elizabeth?
Anomaly
I never
detected.
played Persona 3. Or rather, I never did its final boss, but like,
Anomaly detected.
it's kind of like Gaia Rage from
Anomaly
DDS. If you take too long, the game just kills you with an almighty skill that deals more HP than you have. So,
What do you
those
desire,
suck,
Ringo?
and
In the
take a lot
name
of planning to
evolution.
beat when you first beat them. But anyway, what lies next for our merry band of jackasses? Find out next time on Soul Hackers 2. See you guys then!